Right, morning, welcome. Welcome back. An epic day yesterday, starting with Trevor Carty's story in the morning and then moving into quite a series of sessions during the rest of the day. So Trevor, I'm going to sit back and relax this morning and I'm going to hand the mic straight over to you to pick up where you left off yesterday morning. So over to you and take it away.
Thanks, Ivan. Morning, everyone. And what a spectacular day yesterday was, guys. Just congratulations. That global conference was incredible. Your speakers I got so much from every single one of them, and nice to see some of them on this platform every day as well. So yesterday, we ended at the end of my first session, just turned 50, just been divorced. I've come through my first life. My statistics aren't looking that good. I'm 50 for 2, for 3, for 4, which one day we'll talk about what that means. And I'm in my second life. I'm a firm believer that we get 3 lives. First life is 1 to 50, second life 50 to 70, and then you get your real life from 70 on. And there I was, and it wasn't very pretty. And I thought, well, it's 2016. What am I going to do? And you have to sit back and think about a new flight plan. And the one thing about a flight plan is it has an ultimate destination. And my ultimate destination was the 2030 landing zone, just after my 70th, into my third life. And the one thing about getting into your 50s is you start to hopefully realize what some of your gifts and talents are that God has blessed you with. And you start thinking, how do we put these to better use than me, and start thinking about we. And so I came up with an acronym for a new business, and the business was called URETESA, URETESA. And it stood for Unconventional Realistic Economic Transformation, Empowering South Africans. And I registered the business, and it was really there to be unconventional, but mainly to be realistic. And it was really there to empower all South Africans. And it only had one mission, and that mission was to make South Africa great again. And as soon as you get a bit of purpose again, you get a bit of passion again, things start going in a better direction. And about 5 months into being single, my kids said, "That's enough. You're a real pain, Dad." And they put me on a technology platform called Tinder. We won't talk about the first 3 dates, but the 4th one was interesting. And into my life walked my first Afrikaner, Mariki Elsabeth Serfontein Pretorius, and wonderful woman. What I didn't tell you is that I had contracted malaria, and these hardy-dars are going crazy. When I had taken my 50th birthday celebration, I traveled through Africa with 6 of my mates for 6 weeks. And I'd had some cancer when I was 49, and Discovery paid me a little dread disease claim. It's always nice to pay yourself as the broker. And we'd been on this epic African safari / fishing trip. And I came back, and I didn't feel so well. 8 days after I got back, and I'd been doing a detox as well. And she was doing the detox with me. And the guys that sold us the program said, "Hey, this is going to really be tough on you, particularly because I love to have a couple of black labels every day, Ed, and maybe a scotch or 2 before I go to bed, or a glass of wine or whatever." And so probably since 17, 18, I haven't really taken a break. And so my body was in for a bit of a hiding. So I thought this was my body shutting down from the detox. Meanwhile, I had malaria. And for about 3 weeks, I was out cold, and it was the start of the best weight loss program I've ever been in. I was quite a porker at the time. I was 120 something kilos. And Mick was there. I told her I wasn't feeling well. she said, go to the house, lie on the bed. And when I woke up, it was March, and I was 3 waist sizes smaller, and I'd lost about 13 kilos. And that was it. She kind of inherited me for the next 3 years of her life. And she wanted to move to the Cape. Her girls were at that age where you make those decisions once. Her eldest was finishing junior school, and they're both very clever kids, so they got full bursaries to go to the Cape, and her folks are living in the Cape. So we went to live in the Cape, and I never thought in my lifetime I'd live in the Cape. I loved the Eastern Cape, loved Port Elizabeth, but Cape Town was interesting. And the first thing I did wrong was, as a geography major in my BSc, I should have really checked out the terrain first before I took offices in the waterfront when we're living in Somerset West. That didn't go well. Cape Town traffic is a total bugger up. We think Joburg is bad. It's terrible. You only have one road in and one road out. And so my Cape Town start wasn't a great one from a business perspective, but relationally it was quite interesting. And then that first year we were in Cape Town, she decided she wanted to go and study again. She's a chartered accountant. She wanted to go and study to be a teacher. So no problem. My daughter was at Stellenbosch. She was going to go to Stellenbosch, and I was going to become a house father and look after the 2 girls and help around the house and work from home and start working out how digitization works. And at the same time, I had it in my spirit that I'd got to start thinking about Eurotessa. What are we going to do in Eurotessa? And I got a great mate in the Cape. His name is Nigel Adrianse. He's a wonderful colored gentleman who we'd been challenging each other to step out of our comfort zones. And he had been running a listed property company, 20 billion in assets, but he felt like he wasn't doing anything, and he was wasting his gifts and talents. So he started a thing called the Enterprise Development Property Fund. And we wrote 3 years worth of training material and started the journey to develop previously disadvantaged individuals to change the landscape of South Africa. Land ownership in South Africa for previously disadvantaged individuals is very small. And so this was a 3-year NQF6, and you graduate when you finish your theory, but in practice you have to take ownership of a title deed. So you have to buy property in to be part of this. And at the same time, we'd been working with a crowd called the URK, the United Royal Kingships. And it's an experience I'd had from Port Elizabeth when I tried to partner with the Khoisan people, because I found evidence that they had been on my beachfront land. And I created a thing called the Khoisan Foundation Trust. So we put a structure together called the United Royal Kingship Holdings, and it was the 10 kings of South Africa. And finally, they were in a structure. And all of a sudden, that was quite exciting, because they have a thing in Parliament called the TLC, the Traditional Leaders Council. And there is a line in the Believer's Creed that says that I can have policies and rules changed and petitions granted. And all of a sudden that starts becoming half real to you, because you now have influence and connectivity. And these kings, they have 16 million hectares of land under their control, and they have about 30 million individuals that are in their different tribes, from the Zulus to the Xhosas to the Pedis to the Sotho to the Khoisan. And so Nigel and I sat down and we came up with this business to change South Africa with the United Royal Kingships Holdings. And we created a business called Kingdom Guides. And Kingdom Guides was really something where we were going to take our lead from God. We were going to help the 10 kings of South Africa and guide them into what they should be doing and thinking. And instead of sitting there like a traditional leaders council with your hands out every time you go to Parliament or the government saying, hey, hold on, you have control, you have the power, you have, and you have, and you have, and you have. And so Charles Rembe, myself, and Nigel started Kingdom Guides. Nigel was appointed the CEO of URK Properties, which is one of the 10 pillars of economy in the URK. And we decided in Kingdom Guides we were going to have 4 pillars that we were going to focus on going forward to make a real difference in South Africa. And that was on education, financial services, property, and agriculture, together with agri-processing. Charlie got sucked in full-time to the URK, which left us with a bit of a void in Kingdom Guides. And if you ask nicely, you can get just about anything. So I thought, where am I going to find an academic that is close to the president and has relationships that Nigel and I don't have? And step in the ex-human resources director of McDonald's, the chairman or the council, head of council at the Da Vinci Institute, a guy by the name of Sichaba Maloitsi. And Sichaba, I met him through the Fellows of Fire. And I'd asked one of the Fellows of Fire, Satish Rupa, I said, I'm looking for this sort of individual. And Satish said, here's just such a fellow. So he joined us as a shareholder and became our group chairman. And Kingdom Guides is underpinned by innovation, technology, and disruption. But the reality is we are starting to change the way people think in this country from the king's perspective. And we've had the kings of South Africa allocate 1.6 million hectares of land to development and economic opportunity. And that's been really, really a significant breakthrough. And there are a couple of things that one needs if we're really going to make a significant impact. And for you to develop anything, you're always going to need power and you're always going to need water. And if you can find enough people and you've got access to the land, resources can always be deployed. We have a very, very big agricultural sector in South Africa. I loved yesterday's Optimally presentation where they showed just how big and important and critical agriculture is to South Africa, and importantly, to do agri-processing here. And so we built a concept called a dream community. And a dream community was based on a certain number of people residing in a certain space that we could go and build a significant impact in a given area. And so Kingdom Guides, it is about community, it's about wealth creation in communities, and it's about coming up with solutions in those communities for those communities. And then we had 2020 come along, new decade, and when you're starting to get the flow, what I didn't tell you that was that Cape Town was getting trickier and trickier. I was commuting, and all of a sudden I made a decision that I needed to be back in Johannesburg full time for this next season of my life. And the flight plan said first leg Cape Town to Johannesburg. And so I came back to Joburg in January of 2020 and had this fantastic, how are we going to start the year, rah, rah, rah. You know how we all think we control the universe. And in March, I found myself, like the rest of us, in lockdown. What I didn't know is that I was going to find myself in a beautiful new home 3 days before lockdown. It was needed a little bit of work. I didn't realize lockdown was going to take us into winter. It was not equipped for winter. I wasn't equipped for winter. I'd put everything in storage because I'd been living with a mate of mine since I came back from Cape Town in January, and I was going to look after his house for the balance of the year because he was going to be touring the world. And we found ourselves locked down in COVID. And then I got invited to participate in a virtual trade fair. I got the 12 o'clock slot on a Saturday. Ivan, you know you owe me for that slot. But what I know is I owe you for that slot, because I'd never done anything like it. And in having this conversation. You don't know who you're talking to, but one thing led to the next, and I got a connect from one of the guys. He said, can we connect you to some of the guys we know, blah, blah, fish paste. And the next thing that happened is we signed an agreement with one of the largest energy companies in Europe called Hausch Energy to become the South African and African representative, it is all Trevor's fault indeed, of Hausch Energy. And these guys have got European and American pension fund money for sustainable energy solutions. Now, let me tell you how exciting that gets. Because all these guys want is to deploy money and the global IP to develop sustainable green energy for South Africa. And I got them to gift me 10 megawatt plants of power, one for each king in South Africa. Why? Well, because if we could convince the kings to give us enough land where they've got enough people, we can do the rest. Our problem still remained water, particularly because we haven't been keeping up with our infrastructure in South Africa. We have failing sewage works. Our water potability, particularly in the rural areas, is not significant. But again, I get invited to go to Bloemfontein to go and meet a global fund that wants to throw some serious money behind agriculture. And when I get there, my Irish mate says to me, we're just going to have a braai with a fella that I've recently met. And this fella just happened to have recently patented a South African patent to take the biggest bucket of grime and turn it into potable water. And so now we have access to a South African patent for water. We have access to Hausch for funding for energy, and we've got 1.6 million hectares of pledged land. So where we are is we're looking at this digital thing. What COVID did is it made us so much more aware of the fact that you need to be able to deliver your message electronically. I've been consulting to one of the largest ETI companies in South Africa. ETI stands for Employment Tax Incentives. It's where companies are entitled to tick their boxes for the BE scorecard for training and development and outsource that. And these guys have got 170 campuses around South Africa, and they've got 32,000 students around South Africa. And we used that as a base to go to one of the national carriers and say, what sort of deal can you do with us for data? And we signed an agreement last week with Cell C to provide us data for next to nothing. I'll give you a little taster. We can offer for 139 Rand, 30 gigs of data. So it works out to be about $4.50 a gig of data. And they have just signed an agreement with MTN to give them more coverage across South Africa. So we can really start doing something. And then you sit in another global trade fair on a Saturday, and you just meet people that can plug in and help. So that's really my story, with the exception of the 13th of May. We know it was level 4. I was about to braai at home and my phone pinged. And I looked and it was a Facebook. Someone wanted to be a friend of mine. Not being too much of a technology dude, I thought I'll cope with that later. That evening I said, okay, cool, I'll be your buddy. It was a woman that I'd met 4 years ago. And a couple of days later, she sent me a WhatsApp saying, do we not talk? I said, what do you mean? I thought we were Facebook friends. She said, no, when you're friends, you're meant to talk. So I said, okay, well, I'll have to braai. There's not much else to do in level 4. I'm going to braai. I said, do you have traveling papers? She says, yeah, of course. I do essential services. I said, is that right? She says, yeah, you know, I'm an ETI tax specialist and I got to go see companies. I said, okay, is that what you do? And I said, I'm going to have a braai today at 2:00. Why don't you pop in? She said, great. I live in Pretoria, so I've got to leave at 4 because curfew was 6. So as long as you know that it's not going to be a hit and run thing, but it is a hit and run thing. I said, that's great. And yeah, so did I know that on the 17th of March, the 17th of August, that she was going to ask me to marry her? The answer is unequivocally no. But it is a fresh decade. I am turning 55 next birthday, and I've never been asked by a woman to marry me. So my statistics are going to change this year. I said, my darling, I would love to marry you. So I have the love of my life. I'm blessed to have a third shot at it. Last bite of the cherry. I call her Z because I've been from A to the last, and this is it. So I have my Z in my life. I have some significant purpose and challenge in my businesses. And tomorrow we're going to watch my team start their comeback. So yeah, guys, that's just a bit of my story.
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, sure. That was that was quite a story. Certainly, lots of twists and turns on your path there, Trevor. I think some interesting ones. So you're getting a salute from Trevor Null. There you go. So okay, folks, I think they're nice small group. So if you want to just unmute and add your thoughts in.
That salute was for courage.
I thought it was for the wedding cake.
No, that's it. Yeah. I don't know why a song came flitting past my mind. Was it Donovan or Dylan? A blowing in the wind. I almost see this paper. Where's Trevor Carty going, and what's he doing? I mean, I had a sit down with Trevor over a beer about a week ago, and one of the things I did to Trevor was to turn around and say, hey, here's my problems, sort it out. And he came back and said, well, you tell me how you want me to sort it out. I said, stuff you, I gave you the problem, sort it out. So now we're missing the opportunity to leverage here. And I don't know who's blowing up whose piece of paper in the wind at the moment. But Trevor, what a phenomenal story. And what I'm trying to get in my head is I want to help you make something happen. The moment you help me make something happen to help you make something, you get the drift.
Absolutely. And I think there are two words that come with that piece of paper drifting in the wind. I think the first is collaboration. I think in this time and place, particularly when you have something significant to add, and what you guys have been building with your platforms and with it's significant. I mean, it's the equivalent of park run for the mind, and I'm loving it. And so as I said to you when we had our beer, Trevor, it's about how do we package it and put it into the bigger picture so that it's not something that's only used by a handful or 10,000, but something that is accessible to all. Because the earlier you can get these sort of wisdoms and insights, the earlier you can actually build something on them. And I think the majority of us are still in our second life. There may be one or two of us that are into our third life, but it's our space to take our learnings and to help those first lifers, and really set ourselves up for our third lives at the same time. So yeah, it's about those insights and collaboration, but it's all about getting it to market. If you can't get it to market and commercialize it, it just doesn't have the same effect. So yeah, I'm enjoying the conversations we're having, and
just as you're talking, one other thing comes in. What do you believe is your true gift?
Now you've got onto my favorite subject.
No, you've only got 30 seconds. Ivan's about to actually cull you. You've got
Okay,
30 seconds to turn around and say, what's your true gift?
It's a perfect way for me then to close. In Jesus' name, I declare by faith that I walk in divine favor, that I have preferential treatment, that I have supernatural increase, that I have restoration, that I have increased assets, that I have a number of relationships that open doors, that I have prominence, that I have policies and rules changed, that I have petitions granted, and that I have battles won that I don't have to fight. All because of the favor and blessing of God on my life. So what is my
now
gift is that I have a relationship with the universe.
You've created a problem for me.
I know.
Because I asked
your problem. I've got mine sorted.
From your perspective, and I think you've abrogated the responsibility.
I'm going to have to Google what abrogated means. There's another word.
Well, there you go. No, all right.
I think I need to stop the two of you because I think Stella wanted to add some thoughts in. And
sorry.
No, Trevor, I just want to say what an incredible story. And I loved your storytelling and the way that, and your sense of humor and just the way that I was totally, so I could picture everything that you were telling me. So that was incredible. And I think your heart is, I see your heart is just at the right place. And that, what did you call it? A dream
community.
Yeah, dream community. That was such a nice word and a nice idea. So well done for you. And I'm so happy for you. And to hear a positive story now in COVID-20, there's so many negative stories, and to see you just reinventing yourself in 2020 during COVID. And I wish you all the best with your new life and your life. I'm sure you're going to be amazingly happy. And just I was so enriched by your story. Thank you for that.
Right, thanks, Stella. Ed, do you want to add some thoughts in?
I was just, well, fantastic, Trevor. Really loved the storytelling. I was just wondering what the motivation was behind the Sustainable Energy Project. Is it a desire to save the environment, or is it a desire to make money out of an opportunity?
Ed, I think it's a little bit of both. In South Africa, we have a power provider called Eskom. And I should not call them a power provider. They are not a power provider. They have deployed 200 billion rands, and they, out of that deployment, have not added 1 megawatt of power to South Africa. And it's still fossil fuel based. So the reality is, without power, you can't really develop much. You are properly hamstrung. And you just got to be careful what you ask for, because if you ask the right people, you're bound to get it. And when it comes to this sustainable energy solution, the fact that it's sustainable and green, am I convinced that it's not got a 20-year cycle where I'm going to battle with the recycling of the PV panels and I don't know. But I only have a limited time here, but I have a huge amount of lives that I have to change. And the upside is I can take my PV and wind solutions and I can walk into the fields that I've got and I can put them up there. And when I have policies and rules changed, I can start giving power to the people, which means that I can school them, I can clinic them, I can infrastructure them, I can put in pivots, I can suck water out of rivers, and I can agri-process. So yeah, it's a good question. Definitely profit. It's profit to fund the hope of a nation and a continent.
I love that expression, power to the people, because I think you're right. Without that energy, without that power supply, you can't do anything. I think, I said yesterday, profit's a good thing if it's used for people.
Correct. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Ed. Wholeheartedly.
Great, thanks, Ed. Jasper, you disappeared, but you came back. So yeah, you want to add some things in?
Yeah. No, I'm excited for Trevor, and I've been following his journey since I've met him for what is it, the last 20 odd years. And I remember our first get together was, and it looks like all my exciting relationships start at the gym. So we were meeting there in the gym and immediately realized here's some connection. And as total strangers, we said we're not leaving here until we had a coffee. So we immediately went out and had a coffee, and he already started to share his big vision and how things were interacting, and there our friendship started. And I'm really happy that I can see now where in the beginning he was a little bit all over the show, but he certainly has favor in his life, and he has an ability to connect with people at the incredible level. So I would call him the ultimate networker. But what he was lacking was a team around him. And I think the stability started to set in when you found Nigel and Sachaba, and then that gave you focus and credibility, so that you can now start doing the stuff that you're doing with the energy and the rest of it. And I know we have several conversations behind the scene, because somewhere in this whole mix, there's a need for a bank and financial literacy training and all of that. So that conversation is on track. And yeah, I think I think what makes this group special, and where Trevor Carty fits in so well, is that we think abundance, we think possibilities. But it sometimes just takes someone with coming from a different angle and some different connections to start showing where the obvious possibilities lies in front of you. And I think what I'm learning from Trevor Carty is the scale at which he thinks. 1.6 million hectare, 10 megawatt plants for each king. And when you start thinking and talking that scale, and you talk with such confidence, you seem to attract the stuff that's out there already. I just don't know how to do it. So I'll just make sure I stay in his slipstream, so he can pull me along on this journey. But I think it just proves that there's abundance out there, and I mean, it's a fitting finish to from where we had our full meeting yesterday, with a bunch of people seeing the possibilities and opportunities in South Africa.
Right, thanks, Jasper. Right, Lee, over to you for your thoughts, and then to wrap us up and tell us what Monday is going to bring.
Trevor, thank you so much. You know what I loved is that you wove the story like a piece of performance art. You know, you had the dress, you had the props, and it all was this incredible weaving of the real story, but it was done in such a way that we were captured by the way that you told it. And I think that's a special gift that you do have. So that is one of the things that if I was to say what is, I'm not saying this is your gift, your unique, your only gift, but it's certainly your ability to tell stories and to you know, keep an audience on the edge of their seats. You certainly are able to do that, and also that it's been, you know, you sort of tell your story with a certain lightness of tone, but to have gone through what you've gone through you know, you throw cancer in, you throw malaria in, you throw the ups and downs of relationships. It's not been an easy ride. And so just acknowledge that in the midst of everything that you were sharing. So thank you for giving us that opportunity to share a bit in your life and to grow and learn from it. So thank you for that. Monday, you can ask my husband after, and anybody that sat through especially the whole day, but even any part of yesterday, the virtual trade fair global summit. My mind, it was absolutely full. And one of the things that I would love to do is to be able to pull out, you know, kind of do some reflecting on what is it that we actually, yes, there's the event itself and what does the event mean, but I think what I'd like to start with on Monday is, was there a talk, and I know some people were only I'm speaking to people who were all there for at least one or two of the talks. So what is it that stood out for you? What insights, what information, what value, what can we, now having experienced some of these incredible speakers, what are some of the learnings that we take from it? And I'd love us to each to share and then hopefully pull this learning through in an ongoing way, so it doesn't just sit in some repository now on YouTube. So that's and even people who weren't part of it, on Monday, they'll be able to hear our version of what we learned, which will be a learning for them. So I look forward to that.
Great, thanks, Lena. I thought I was going to put my feet up this weekend.
You don't have to do anything, Ivan. We'll do all the talking on Monday.
Good. Pleased to hear that. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Trevor, again for your story. Have a great weekend, folks, and we'll see you on Monday morning. Go well.